There is a teaching in Stoicism that sounds, at first hearing, almost absurd. Not just accepting what happens to you, but actively loving it. Not tolerating your circumstances, but embracing them as if you chose them yourself. This concept, which Friedrich Nietzsche later called Amor Fati, love of fate, sits at the heart of Stoic philosophy. But it's widely misunderstood. This isn't positive thinking. This isn't pretending everything is fine when it isn't. This is something far more radical and far more demanding. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled during plague, war, and betrayal, wrote in his private journals, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." Epictetus, who spent years as a slave, taught, "Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well." These men understood something profound about the relationship between human will and cosmic order. Something that, when truly grasped, transforms not just how you feel about your life, but what your life actually means. Let me explain what they actually taught. The Stoic understanding of fate. First, we need to understand what the Stoics meant by fate. This isn't the fatalism of resignation, the idea that nothing matters because everything is predetermined. The Stoics had a much more sophisticated view. They believed in what they called hymarmene, a rational, providential order to the universe. Everything that happens, happens as part of a larger cosmic unfolding governed by logos, divine reason. Marcus Aurelius writes, "Everything is interwoven, and the web is holy. None of its parts is unconnected. They are composed together and together compose the world." This means that every event in the universe is connected to every other event in an unbroken chain of cause and effect. Nothing happens randomly. Nothing happens in isolation. Your life, with all its particular circumstances, is woven into the fabric of reality itself. Now, you might think this means you have no freedom. But here's where the Stoics made a crucial distinction: you cannot choose what happens to you, but you absolutely can choose how you relate to what happens. Your prohairesis, your faculty of reasoned choice, remains free even within the determined order of nature. The question then becomes, given that events will unfold as they must, according to nature's law, how should you position yourself in relation to those events? The three levels of response. The Stoics recognized three possible relationships you can have with fate. First, you can resist it. You can spend your life wishing things were different, fighting against what is, and demanding that reality conform to your preferences. This is the stance of most people most of the time. And it leads to constant suffering, because you're placing yourself in opposition to the fundamental order of things. Marcus Aurelius calls this, being like a dog tied to a cart. The cart is moving, that's fate, nature, the unfolding of events. You can resist, dig in your heels, and be dragged along painfully. But the cart will move regardless. Second, you can accept it. You can acknowledge that resistance is futile and simply let events happen without internal struggle. This is already a significant advancement. This is the dog that stops resisting and walks alongside the cart. There's no more dragging, no more suffering from the struggle itself. But the Stoics taught a third level, something more profound: you can love it. What it means to love your fate. When Marcus Aurelius says, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything thrown into it," he's describing an active transformation. The fire doesn't merely accept the wood. It converts the wood into itself. It uses the wood as fuel to burn brighter. This is Amor Fati. This is the capacity to take whatever happens, pleasant or painful, wanted or unwanted, and use it as material for your virtue, as fuel for your character, as an opportunity to exercise wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. Epictetus taught his students, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. Notice the precise language. He doesn't say, accept that things happen as they do. He says, I wish that they happen as they do. This is an active wanting. This is aligning your will completely with reality as it is. Why would you do this? Is this not just glorified submission? No. Here's what the Stoics understood: reality is not your enemy. Reality is the manifestation of divine reason. Everything that happens, happens for a reason within the larger cosmic order. And you, as a rational being, are part of that order. Marcus Aurelius writes, "Whatever happens to you has been waiting to happen since the beginning of time." The twining strands of fate wove both of them together, your own existence and the things that happen to you. Think about what this means. Your particular life, with its particular challenges, is not arbitrary. It's not punishment. It's not random bad luck. It's the specific curriculum designed by nature for your specific soul. The philosophical foundation. This goes deeper into Stoic physics and theology. The Stoics believe that the universe is a living, rational being. God, nature, Zeus, Logos, and that you are a fragment of that divine intelligence temporarily embodied in matter. Your rational soul is literally a piece of the cosmic soul. You're not separate from God, looking at the universe from the outside. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself in this particular location. When you resist what happens, you're not just fighting circumstances. You're fighting yourself. You're creating internal division between your individual will and the universal will of which you're a part. Marcus Aurelius puts it plainly, what doesn't benefit the hive doesn't benefit the bee. You are not separate from the whole. What happens to you is what the whole requires to happen. And since you are rational, since you possess logos, you have the capacity to recognize this and align your will with it consciously. This is what Amor Fati actually means. The recognition that your individual will and the cosmic will are not in opposition, and the deliberate choice to unite them. The practice of loving fate. So how do you actually practice this? Because Epictetus insisted that philosophy is not just theory, it's a way of life, a daily practice. First, understand that every event that occurs is an opportunity. Not just the pleasant events, but especially the difficult ones. Marcus Aurelius writes, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not a metaphor. This is literal. When an obstacle appears, you're allowed to exercise patience, resourcefulness, courage, and adaptability, virtues you couldn't exercise without the obstacle. The obstacle is the material from which you build your character. Lost your job? This is the opportunity to exercise resilience and discover what you're actually capable of when security is stripped away. Betrayed by someone you trusted? This is the opportunity to practice forgiveness without letting forgiveness become naivete. This is the chance to refine your judgment about human nature. Diagnosed with an illness? This is the opportunity to face mortality with dignity, to discover your strength, to let go of what's superficial. Every difficult circumstance is asking you, will you let this diminish you, or will you use this to become more fully yourself? Epictetus taught. Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself. The event itself is neutral. It's your response that has moral quality. And since virtue, your character, is the only true good, then any circumstance that allows you to exercise virtue is actually beneficial, regardless of how it feels. The transformation of suffering. Here's where this teaching becomes truly powerful. The Stoics aren't denying that pain exists. They're not saying suffering is an illusion. They're saying something more nuanced. Suffering is what happens when you add judgment to pain. Pain is physical. Pain is unavoidable. But suffering, the mental anguish, the why me, the resistance, the bitterness, that's added by your judgment that this pain shouldn't be happening. Marcus Aurelius writes, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. When you practice Amor Fati, you don't eliminate pain. But you do eliminate suffering. Because you're no longer fighting reality. You're no longer adding the secondary layer of anguish that comes from believing things should be other than they are. You can experience pain and simultaneously recognize, this is what's happening. This is what nature has presented. This is the material I have to work with. How can I meet this with virtue? This is not cold stoicism in the popular sense. This is conscious, deliberate engagement with reality as it is. The deeper freedom. There's an even deeper implication here. When you love your fate, when you completely align your will with what is, you become invulnerable in a very particular way. Marcus Aurelius asks, does what happened keep you from acting with justice, courage, self-control, sanity, prudence, honesty, humility, straightforwardness? If not, then the harm you imagine doesn't exist. Can external events prevent you from being virtuous? Can they stop you from exercising reason? Can they corrupt your character? No. Only your own judgments can do that. This means that nothing external can actually harm you in the way that matters most. Your essential self, your capacity for virtue, remains untouchable. Epictetus, reflecting on his time as a slave, said, "No one can harm you without your consent. You are hurt the moment you believe yourself to be." This is radical autonomy. Not the freedom to control circumstances, but the freedom to remain yourself regardless of circumstances. Living from Amor Fati. When you truly internalize this teaching, your relationship with life changes completely. You stop waiting for conditions to be right before you can be happy. Because you recognize that these conditions, exactly as they are the right conditions for you right now. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances. Because you recognize that circumstances are the arena in which you exercise virtue. You stop fearing the future. Because you know that whatever comes, you have the capacity to meet it appropriately. Marcus Aurelius writes, "Welcome every experience the looms of fate may weave for you. Not just tolerate. Welcome. This is an active embrace." And here's what's remarkable, when you stop fighting reality, when you stop demanding that life be different than it is, you don't become passive. You become more effective. Because you're no longer wasting energy on resistance. You're no longer paralyzed by resentment. You're seeing clearly what is, and responding appropriately to what is. This is the fire that makes brightness out of everything thrown into it. The ultimate test. The ultimate test of Amor Fati is this: could you choose to live your exact life again, with all its pain and all its joy, exactly as it happened? Nietzsche called this the eternal recurrence. The idea that you might have to live your life over and over, infinitely, with no changes. The person who has not mastered Amor Fati would recoil from this in horror. All that pain again. All those disappointments. All those losses. But the person who has truly loved their fate, who has used every circumstance as fuel for virtue, would say yes without hesitation. Because they recognize that this life, exactly as it was the perfect curriculum for their soul. Marcus Aurelius understood this. Near the end of his life, after plague had killed millions, after wars, after the betrayal of his wife and the incompetence of his son, he wrote, "In a little while you will be nobody and nowhere, nor will anything which you now behold exist, nor any of those who are now alive. For all things are by nature formed to change and turn and perish, that other things may in turn come into being." And yet he also wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. This moment, exactly as it is all you have. And this moment, exactly as it is enough. Because this moment is where you exercise virtue. This moment is where you are most fully yourself." Conclusion. Amor Fati is not a feeling you manufacture. It's a recognition you come to through sustained philosophical practice. The recognition that you and the universe are not opponents. That your will and nature's will can become one. Epictetus ends his teaching with this reminder. Remember, it is not enough to be hit or insulted to be harmed. You must believe that you are being harmed. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. What happens to you is fate. How you receive it is philosophy. Love your fate not because it's pleasant, but because it's yours. Because it's real. Because it's the material from which you forge yourself. This is the teaching. Not to transcend life, but to fully embrace it. Not to escape suffering, but to use suffering as the whetstone that sharpens virtue. Some things will happen that you would not choose. Love them anyway. Not because you're resigned, but because you're wise enough to recognize that wisdom itself often comes through doors we would never open willingly. This is Amor Fati. This is the fire that transforms everything into light.